So the Tigers have made a trade. We'll get to that in a minute. But first of all, it's come out. There's been many trade rumors involved in the Detroit Tigers. Whether it's Dave Bednar, which we'll get to, Suarez, which we'll get to, but this is a very tumultuous time for Mr. Scott Harris because under no circumstances can Scott Harris go and say, "Look, we're going to get this guy and we're going to pay a top 5 prospect for this guy." Just makes no sense from the word go. What Scott Harris has to do is make the right negotiation skills, the right negotiations to get what he wants. No good negotiator under any circumstance is going to be like, "Oh, we're going to trade a top 5 prospect for this guy. He's not worth a top 5 prospect, but we're going to give it anyways to be aggressive and whatever." What that tells the entire Major League Baseball, whether it's Jeff Greenberg, the general manager, or baseball president of operations, Scott Harris, that your organization can be taken advantage of really quickly. We've seen it with El Avila. We see it all the time with other GMs. David Sampson in Miami was a good one. We've seen Dave Dombrowski routinely take advantage of people who couldn't negotiate at a high rate, and they just got absolutely bullied at the negotiation tables. And that's exactly what Scott Harris is going to do, and that's a good negotiation tactic. Now, I know a lot of fans are going to say, "Well, why can't you be aggressive?" Because being aggressive doesn't benefit the team in the broader terms. It just doesn't. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Being aggressive is one thing. Being aggressively stupid is another thing. And Scott Harris can't be aggressively stupid, or he's going to see himself on the unemployment line eventually, because GMs take notes. And the best general managers will walk circles around you for every little player that you have. So without further ado, let's get to the trade that involved Chris Paddack. So the full trade is Chris Paddack, the right-handed pitcher from the Twins, and right-handed pitcher Randy Dubnik for Enrique Jimenez, the catcher and the first baseman, who's I think he's the 19th overall prospect in the Detroit Tigers organization. Dubnik, who has played in one game this year, has been DFA'd a couple times. He's a ground ball guy. I don't even need to look at the baseball savant. He's a ground ball guy that's going to help you out. Chris Fetter is a magician. We all know Chris Fetter can get the best out of the pitchers. We've seen what he did with Jack Flaherty, what he's done with Mize over the course of a time. Only one he couldn't really fix was God, forgetting his name, the one pitcher last year. But Chris Fetter has a really good reputation of fixing pitchers, so I'm not really worried about that. Chris Paddack is the center of the deal. He's a starting pitcher who has a good good chase rate. He has, he's really good with his extension, which the Tigers seem to love. His hard hit rate is pretty low. So this is all things that the Detroit Tigers love in their pitchers. And if you go over some of the pitchers that, we can go over it and say, this is what the Tigers pitchers are supposed to be like. This is what they're supposed to be like. It's interesting because Chris Paddack is probably going to be at the back of the rotation. A guy like, Dobnik, whatever you want to say, he could be a useful player. He actually played at Utica in the USPBL, so he's coming back, and it's going to be interesting to see what he could do because this is a perfect opportunity for him to recreate his career. And if you look at some people online, whether it be Twins fans or people that know Dobnik, they say the same thing. They want to see him get a fresh start. I don't believe he got a good shot in Minnesota. So it's an interesting reclamation project for the Detroit Tigers, a good reclamation project for Chris Fetter, who has done a fantastic job at reclamating a bunch of pitchers over his course of his time, especially with the Detroit Tigers. Now, there's been several rumors that have been linked to the Detroit Tigers, one being David Bednar. The Pirates have been scouting the Erie Seawolves over the last week, and there are some pieces that interest the Tigers. Asking price for Dave Bednar as of now appears to be bananas. And if you look at Dave Bednar, right-handed, he's a right-handed pitcher, 2.19 ERA, 51 strikeouts, good whip, and he gets a lot of saves. So he could be a back end of your relieving pitchers as well. And I know a lot of people, they want a relieving pitcher, maybe two, and Dave Bednar would be a really good piece. And if you can get him for cheap, that's what Scott Harris wants. He's not going to give up the farm for Dave Bednar. He's not going to give up, a top 5 prospect for Dave Bednar. I know that's probably where the negotiations probably started with the Pittsburgh Pirates. But the only way you're giving up a top 5 prospect is if you're getting a roster player, a relieving pitcher, or something along those lines, where you would have to give up a top 5 prospect to get those guys if you made a multiplayer deal. But that's not going to happen. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I know Evan Petzold in his article had Jose Brasino going to the Arizona Diamondbacks for Merrill Kelly, Shelby Miller, and Eugenio Suarez. That would be outlandish in my opinion, but you can never really count anything out, especially during trade deadline when maybe you can catch a deal and maybe Scott Harris believes that he can kind of make things work. So on Eugenio Suarez, Bob Nightingale reported that the Detroit Tigers are one of the strong suitors for Diamondbacks all-star third baseman Eugenio Suarez. Would love to finalize the deal before Suarez leaves town Wednesday. The Diamondbacks are in Detroit for 3 games. So this 3-game series starts tonight. So one of the major pieces is a guy who's on the mound for the Detroit Tigers tonight, Troy Melton. That's the guy who has been rumored to be in talks to be traded to the Diamondbacks for Eugenio Suarez. It'll be interesting to see what the Detroit Tigers will be able to give up. Can they, go without giving up a top 5 prospect? I would imagine so. I can't imagine the Detroit Tigers give up a top 5 prospect for Suarez or anything of the ilk. So it'll be interesting to see what this week holds for the Detroit Tigers as they have more trades that could be made. There's going to be obviously more conversations every step of the way. So keep it locked on JC Sports Detroit. Subscribe below. Comment who you would like to see come to Detroit. But as of now, the Detroit Tigers have traded for Chris Paddack, the starting pitcher from the Twins, and Randy Dubnyk, the relieving pitcher from the Twins, who has had an up and down year and has only played in 1 game this year. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Detroit Tigers do and what Scott Harris is going to do for the rest of the week. I will see you in the next video as we talk more Detroit Tigers baseball here on JC Sports Detroit.